This is the Voice of the Land podcast with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Nick Paulus.
Construction LLC. Reach out to them for all your concrete construction needs. Either reach out to our buddy Tyler LaFrada directly by email, tylerlafrada@gmail.com. That is tylerlafrada@gmail.com, or by phone 330-217-4999, 330-217-4999. I am one of your hosts, Kevin Arnold, and alongside me behind that proverbial glass, our producer extraordinaire, Peter Tulloch. Peter, how's it going tonight?
I'll be going better if I didn't make that little mistake at the beginning, but I know what I did wrong, so we're good.
But I was trying to save you. You just say technical difficulties. That's all it is. You know, nobody has to take any sort of blame. It's just technology.
I think we were looking to relive the Cavs championship video again. Was the problem?
Oh, that's all right.
Hey, I can watch that over and over and over again.
With what we've had to watch the last few years of the Cavs, I'll watch that any day of the week, and hopefully the NBA draft on July 29th is the step in the right direction to get back to moments like that sooner rather than later. Now, usually, of course, I've already introduced my brother, Nick Paulus, but of course, he is on assignment. As we mentioned, he wouldn't be here this week. So, always got to give that call to the bullpen or to one of our insiders that we always love to have on the show. Our buddy, Mac Robinson, joins the show. Mac, man, thank you so much for coming in tonight, man.
Happy to be here, Kevin. Super professional. I love it, man. I love the look for you. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, I'm just trying to get where you're at, man. I mean,
I'm trying to get the assignments like Paulus, man. I want to get that kind of assignment.
Oh, right. I mean, did you see everything he was posting?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. Like I said, Paulus, give me the connection. I want to know where you're going and how to get that assignment, please.
Yeah, he's on assignment is the business way to say it.
I know.
He's taking his vacation.
I know.
Out to San Diego, kind of showing his wife Kelly around because he lived out there for a while. So that's why he kind of has an affinity for like the Chargers, when they were the San Diego Chargers, and he always talks about their powder blue uniforms.
Oh yeah.
But I mean the food, man, eating good out there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like
he said he was worried about fitting in the seat on the way out there. I mean, did you see the size of those burritos?
I did. I mean,
he wasn't lying when he said that was the size of his forearm.
I mean, he went traditional burrito, breakfast burrito, whatever cake or sweet treat he had out there, and then I don't know what else did they have. Like that drink that they had was. There were so many different things going on in that.
Yeah.
I know. I'm pretty jealous.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're not driving. That's
fair point.
That's
fair point.
That's the safest part.
That's the moral of the story.
Yes. So, before we spend too much time talking about Paulus and his vacation and making our own selves jealous tonight,
yeah, of course.
Just to let everybody know, we do have a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to get into the Cavs and just had the draft lottery. We're going to get Mac's reaction, Peter's reaction to, and their thoughts on who we may select, and some trade rumors surrounding the Cavs, not the ones that we have been used to here in Cleveland. Also get Mac's thoughts on the Browns and where they sit as we slowly inch our way to training camp and get through this NFL vacation, or NFL players being on assignment right now. Of course, the Indians just wrapped up a series in Minnesota, a rough series up there, and thoughts out to Josh Naylor. A report came in that he did break a bone. He was carted off the field earlier today. Collision with second baseman Ernie Clement. So thoughts and prayers to a speedy recovery for him. But the injuries just keep continuing. We'll figure out where everybody is at kind of with this Indians team. Just when will the injury bug really stop? And have some fun at the end of the show. I have a fun topic for you guys. Paulus has had the last few. He's kind of come up with them. I was, kind of enjoying a nice weekend away this weekend, and got me thinking about favorite summer activities that you missed last summer, especially.
Yeah.
But things that you really want to get into, and we're getting close to July 4th, so 1 week away. Just to let everybody know, if you listen more to the beginning of the show than the end of the show, we will be off next week, but we'll still have a show. We're going to do a best of show next week for the Voice of the Land, so be sure to tune in that. Some of the segments you may have missed, some of the best segments with some of our guest hosts, and maybe some rants between Paulus and myself. We'll see what we kind of come up with there. We're still piecing that one together, but be sure to tune into that, whether here on Twitter at VTL_pod, of course, on Facebook at Voice of the Land. Of course, follow Big Play across all social media platforms, but you can always watch the live stream of our show and rewatch it throughout the week on their Facebook page and YouTube at Big Play Live. And catch the audio. You know where to get it. All your favorite podcast platforms. I don't got to rattle them off, but I will anyways. Google, Spotify, and Apple. But let's jump right on into this Cavs discussion. Cavs, in the draft lottery, they bump up into the top 4. You're kind of seeing this more often with the reduction in chances when you have the worst record in the NBA. Now it's the top 3 get 14 instead of the top or the worst team getting the 25% chance to get the top pick. You're seeing some of these teams lower chances to get the top pick, at least jumping into the top 4. And by all accounts, by all experts' accounts, top 4 is where you want to be. Cavs get the 3 pick, which is kind of a lot of people saying a sweet spot. Could be Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green. Even heard Kuminga as an option there. Mac, I mean, just your reaction when the Cavs got the 3 pick, is that really a sweet spot in your eyes? And who are you looking at for the Cavs to pick up?
I will say this. So I was in studio the night that the lottery happened over at 92.3 The Fan. And for me, that big benchmark was, at least if you're in the top 5. If you're in the top 5, I think that you're fine. And, like you said, you have Kuminga. Obviously, Cade Cunningham going number 1, that would be the ideal scenario. But obviously, it didn't go the Cavs' way in that sense. And for me, it was just getting into the top 5. That was a huge part. But the fact that they were able to get in the top 4 and able to get number 3 was massive for them because, obviously you're not going to get Cade Cunningham, but at least you're going to get one of those top guys knocked off the board for you. So it's almost like one less option for Kobe to somehow find a way to screw it up.
Right.
But, I look at it as a win-win scenario for the Cavs because I look at this as this is going to make the best sense for the roster going forward. And I know we're going to get into the Colin Sexton discussion here in a little bit. I'm sure. I'm sorry to take that away from you.
Oh, no, you're good.
But looking at this, I think that the way that this is going to work for the roster, I think that Jalen Green is the best fit for this team. I think Evan Mobley is somebody who can be a good center and who I think can be a great modern big, but also currently doesn't necessarily have that 3-point shot currently at this point. So I think that he's going to be somebody who, I think is going to be a great pro, but I just don't think is the right fit for the Cavs currently because you have Jared Allen. I do still think that you need that stretch 4, but I just don't think that that's on the roster, and I don't think that that's going to be Mobley. But I like Suggs, and I think that he's a great player. I just don't necessarily know if the immediate ball handle of, Suggs, I just don't know if that's going to be the best fit. I think that he can be a good player on the Cavs. I just don't know if he's the exact perfect fit for this team. Whereas Jalen Green, I look at, he comes in, he's immediately your starting 2. And I think that you have Darius Garland, who was excelling as a passer and a distributor last year, towards the end especially. He was finding his shot. So I think he's going to be your point guard of the future. Okoro was developing towards the end of April and May. And I think that for him, I think he will be your 3. He will be your bona fide defender. He's going to cover whatever other team you're playing. They're number 1. So I like Jalen Green because I think he takes the Kevin Porter Jr. scoring that you had. I think that he takes that without the off-the-court concerns. And I think that he's somebody who is still developing. He's also a few inches taller than Porter Jr. as well. So I think he's a better fit on the wing. And I think that overall, Jalen Green is going to be the best fit for this team going forward, especially as the offensive scorer on the Cavs team that finished last in 3-point percentage last year. So I think that they're a team that really could use a Jalen Green and use that scorer and that scoring punch that I think has been missing because of the issues with Kevin Porter Jr. last year. I do think that Jalen Green will be the best fit for this team going forward as well.
So going with Jalen Green, do you think that we're going to start to see an advantage to maybe playing in the G League first, choosing that out of high school, then college? Do you think that even though not a lot of people have been able to see Jalen Green, do you think that he has an advantage there already playing kind of in a professional rank or playing against guys that are all looking for that spot up in the big show? And when you go and play college, not all those guys are, some of them already have, or maybe even half of them have that eye to their future outside of the game. Is there any advantage for Jalen Green coming from the G League than some of these other guys coming out of college early on in this process?
I think there's pros and cons to both, because I think that what the G League is going to do is it's going to open up another viable path for these recruits to come out to. So I think that Jalen Green, the reason why it worked for him, he was already a highly touted prospect to begin with. So for him, he got to be around NBA pros. Jarrett Jack and Amir Johnson were on his team. Now, obviously, they weren't great NBA players per se, but at the same time, they have that veteran leadership and they have that experience that they can go ahead and have Jalen Green be able to use for the rest of his career. So for him, it's a great resource and a great tool early on, but at the same time, they only played for a couple months. So you have less games to show what you can do, and you're coming right from the high school level to the professional level. So it's a bit of an adjustment on a short window. So that's the disadvantage for it. But again, the advantage is, like you said, you get to play in that environment and you get to go ahead and experience being in the NBA coaching. You can go ahead and have, all of these different areas and expertise open to you at that point. So I do think that there are pros and cons to both. But I think that what this does is it opens a viable option, at least, for these different recruits to come out to and not necessarily be forced into the NCAA, what's the word I'm looking for? The NCAA...
transfer portal?
Yeah, basically. Kind of like the NCAA environment, kind of.
Like their bubble and
basically.
How they set everything up. And,
yes.
There's all that stuff going on now about, student athletes being
right.
paid or being able to, get money off of how they're basically being used to promote college sports, and yet they're not going to see anything from that, and then they get in trouble when they try to put themselves in a position, because their education's being paid for and everything, but they don't have money for everything else. That's a deeper conversation as these court cases go on. But the NCAA, there is a wide range of schools that are in the NCAA and players that are trying to make a name for themselves, whether in football, basketball, soccer, what have you, and not all of them are going to go to the pros. Jalen Green is kind of in that pro rank. So, he's going to almost kind of be the guinea pig for this, because he's kind of one of those first ones that really is going to be a top pick and have a spotlight on him. See how a guy like that reacts out of the G League versus these guys coming out of college. Peter, before we hit a break here, is there a guy that you're looking at for the Cavs, or is there a player, is there some sort of skill set that you're looking for that this Cavs team needs that you're just not seeing as they just kind of go through and are only winning 20, 21, 22 games a season?
See, Mac probably doesn't know this, but you should remember, I don't know anything about basketball. So when I look at the Cavs, I see, they need the next LeBron James. Because, I loosely follow it, and listening to the games, a lot of times I'll listen to the games when I'm driving home from the show.
Yeah. Something we talk about all the time.
Yeah, and it's the problem I had with this year was they seemed like they just couldn't finish. They'd get to the end of the game, they'd be up or just right there, and then they would just, the end of the fourth quarter, they would just crumble. Yeah. Like this just ran out of gas. So I'm not sure what they need, but man, they need something.
Yeah.
I mean,
what you're saying is I know we're not going to find the next LeBron right away, but you need that kind of player that's going to be able to go get theirs, help others, and make everyone around them better and kind of be a centerpiece of, that if a team is struggling offensively, maybe even defensively, you can go to that guy and any sort of scoring drought can be ended by that guy on the floor. Is that Jalen Green? Is that Jalen Suggs? Is that Evan Mobley? We'll get into that a little bit more on the other side of this break. I'll let you guys know who I want while you're watching the show right now, or if you're listening or watching on replay, reach out to us at Kevin7, at Mac Robinson95, at LPV Productions, at VTL_pod, wherever you want to, on Twitter. Have these sports conversations. Who do you want? We'll get the poll results we posted as well here on the other side of the break. You are tuned in to the Voice of the Land here on the Big Play Network.
Whether you're looking to hire new talent or start a new career, Vector Technical has you covered. Vector Technical is a 28-year-old staffing firm that has helped thousands of job seekers advance in their career with reputable partners throughout northeastern Ohio. Vector Technical is more than just a temp agency. With an above-average hire-in rate of 1 in 4 candidates, Vector works hard to connect the right person with the right opportunity the first time. Vector Technical hires for skilled manufacturing and light industrial work and is sure to have a career that you've been looking for. To learn more, visit our website at www.vectortechnicalinc.com.
Welcome back inside the Voice of the Land here on the Big Play Network. Kevin Arnold alongside our special guest host, Mac Robinson, and, of course, our producer extraordinaire, Peter Tellep. And before we hit the break, we were talking about Cavs 3-pick coming up on July 29th, 2021, NBA Draft. Who do we want? We know that Cade Cunningham is pretty much, if all but a lock to Detroit. I mean, pretty much, he's only going to meet with the Pistons. He said he was only going to, the report was he's only going to meet with the team with the number 1 pick. So,
well, and not to mention, too, I mean, the Detroit fans, and you know this, I have family up in Detroit.
Yes.
I constantly will, follow along with different Detroit fans. Sorry about that. But different Detroit fans, and they've already got the great nickname for him. It's the Motorcade. And so at that point, it makes
the Motor City with the Motorcade.
The Motorcade, it makes so much sense that
does.
if they don't, I'm gonna be upset. From a nickname standpoint and everything, I'm gonna be upset.
Motorcade rolling through the Motor City. I mean, taking them to places they haven't been in a while. That fits. I haven't heard that yet, but I've also, haven't really been connected with over the weekend. So,
yeah.
I haven't even caught up with our poll results, which I looked up in the break. That's the first time I've actually been looking at, because we posted on our Twitter page our poll of the week, sponsored of course by Vector Technical. Right person, right job, the first time. Cavs of course got the 3-pick. Assuming Cade Cunningham, Motorcade, goes to Detroit, who is your guy at 3? And we had a lot of votes came in, and 39% Jalen Green. The other options we had were Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, and of course did leave the option open for other. The confetti at I Carry Nunchucks responded to us, because we did say to comment below that he said he wanted Jonathan Kuminga, he wanted an athletic forward, but Jalen Suggs was second in the actual voting at 30%, and then Evan Mobley 28%. So it's pretty close amongst the viewing audience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy I really like is Jalen Suggs, but that's so difficult to say for this team because we've gone guard. It's either guard, or center.
Right.
There's nothing in between. The guy that's really in between, you can't get. The closest to that would be, like you said, Jalen Green.
Yeah.
If they really have their eye on Jared Allen as their center of the future, that was one of their centerpieces of that trade.
Pun intended?
Pun intended. Pun intended, absolutely. You know it. Hey, we always used to say words are hard, but oh so fun.
Absolutely.
Gotta have fun. fun with the puns, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
But, I mean, honestly, Evan Mobley, I watched a little bit of USC. I can't say that I watched a lot, but, they're on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Watched them in the tournament. The Mobley brothers working together just seemed to be a good pairing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the question is, can Mobley play without his brother, but what can he be on the stage? And you may already have that guy anyways. Again, if this front office really liked that they got Jared Allen in that trade, why would you go Evan Mobley then? Or do you want to go with the, like the two centers in the middle? Do you want that kind of length? I don't know if you need that. You need guys on the wing. You need athletic guys on the wing. And I think out of those three, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, and Evan Mobley, the guy you would go to is Jalen Green. If that is the guy, though, boy, you have to hope that Houston goes Mobley.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, I think that they do go Mobley, mainly because I think that Mobley is, as many have called him, the great modern big. With what you're looking for out of Mobley, he's somebody who can run the floor, he can pass, he can dribble, he can distribute. He's somebody who can really be a threat at all levels. Like I said, the only thing is just he's working on that three-point shot.
Yeah.
He only shot 30% this past year. So I think that Mobley is somebody who's a viable option. If the Cavs took him, I'd be happy. The only problem is just that it's going to take him a little bit of time just because, keep in mind, Darius Garland is 205 pounds. Evan Mobley's 215. So he's going to have to put on some weight, and I don't doubt that he's going to be able to.
Right.
But at the same time, I've seen and heard some people saying that maybe early on he can be almost that Chris Bosh type of four, where he can be that scorer on the outside a little bit, but he can also kind of go low. My only problem with that is that in today's modern NBA, where it's all about spacing, Jared Allen really doesn't provide that on the outside.
Right.
That's not what he's meant to do. So that's why I just don't think it's a good fit. And Kuminga was the other one that was thrown in there too.
Yeah.
Kuminga I like, but the problem is that he's not 19 yet, which is phenomenal. But the problem is that he's really raw at a lot of spots in his game. Now, he's very coachable. He's good on defense. But, the scoring I think is going to take a little bit of time. But I think that overall, you kind of did that last year with Isaac Okoro. Now, obviously a smaller player, and he's a wing player, but Kuminga's basically, I kind of look at him similar to what you had to do last year with Okoro, but at your 4 spot. So I look at it as, like you said, between Suggs and you got Jalen Green. I think Jalen Green is, out of the two, obviously, I think he is the traditional wing. He is the guy who's going to be able to score on the outside. He'll be able to take care of the ball and really be able to be your go-to scorer where, like what Peter was saying, where coming down late in the fourth quarter, it just seemed like the Cavs kind of evaporated. I look at Jalen Green as being that lead scorer for the team and the player that this team can actually identify with and actually be able to utilize in the offense and center the offense around. And I think that Darius Garland will be able to feed off of that as well, be able to score on his own. I just think that Jalen Green makes too much sense for this team. And other people have said, if you didn't have a Cade Cunningham, then, Evan Mobley in most years would be a slam dunk number 1 overall pick. Jalen Green would be a slam dunk number 1 overall pick, and he would have the highest upside. But again, just because you have Cade Cunningham, who's a potential all-pro, then, you're going to have Cade go number 1. So Jalen Green is somebody who I think makes so much sense and I think has the upside that you need to absolutely justify taking him there.
Yeah. And now looking at this draft, I think Houston is, even if they take Mobley, they're in the driver's seat in this draft because Detroit has the easy option at number 1.
Right.
Then I think the advantage of being in the top 4 is you're still getting a good talent. Even if everybody disagrees with us about Jalen Green.
Right.
We're going to be happy with Evan Mobley, with Jalen Suggs,
Yeah.
players like that, because from all accounts and watching them play, they are good players.
Right.
Houston is in that driver's seat because they get the pick of all of them.
Right.
Of course, next is Cleveland because then you get the pick of who's left. That's great before the 4th pick. So there's still an advantage there.
I do want to just say, to be clear, whoever the Cavs take, I'm going to be happy with. Because, like I said, I just want to be in the top 5. Now, if they select somebody outside the top 5, I'm going to be critical of it, and I'm going to question it a little bit. Now, I know Scotty Barnes is somebody who's gotten mentioned, and I think that he's an interesting player. Personally, I wouldn't go down the Scotty Barnes route, but I can understand why some people like him. But whoever they select at 3, I'm going to probably be happy with it. Again, unless they absolutely throw me for a loop and just take somebody out of, like, Australia or somebody random completely. Okay, fine. Then, maybe I'll get that. Or Slovenia, I don't know. They pull somebody completely randomly out of a hat. Then at that point, I'm going to be critical. But the main 5 names, I'm happy where they're at.
Yeah, if there's... the only way I'm going to be upset is if it's a name that we aren't even looking at, thinking about. They're further down the list, like number 1, Anthony Bennett. Like you can't go down that route. Now, of course,
Yes.
we're gonna root for the guy and see what he can do because, again, it's draft stuff. So who
Yeah.
knows? There
Right.
might be a guy that comes out. You've had players lower in the draft make big plays and make a big name for themselves in the league, even though that they weren't touted as ever becoming something like that. Now, we've kind of mentioned Jalen Green pairing with Darius Garland, but there's a name we're kind of leaving out,
Yes.
who is now rumored to being explored to being traded,
Yes.
and that is one who we are big fans of, Paulus and myself, big fans of, big stands of here on the Voice of Land, Colin Sexton. Where do you stand? Do the Cavs need to trade Colin Sexton, or is it just a necessary, an unfortunate necessary thing that they need to look at with the players that are available in this draft that may be a little bit better and may be able to do a little bit more to build a winning culture and not just be a big-time scorer?
I look at so let me start off by just saying this with Colin Sexton because I want to be clear that I'm not just somebody who's coming out just to hate Colin Sexton and all this stuff. You know, I look at Colin Sexton's game, and in covering game for the station too, I was able to watch him last year too, and I like Colin Sexton's game. The problem is that the same issues that he had in his rookie year, in his sophomore year, this past year, you know, they still constantly keep on coming up when the game gets to its clutch moments. So
Right.
the problems with Colin are that he gets very tunnel vision, and I joke with some people saying that our problem is that our lead scorer has the vision of Trent Richardson, because literally all he does is just get tunnel vision for
Yeah.
going to the basket. And yes, he will get assists. He will distribute the ball. I'm not saying that he doesn't. But at the same time, that when it comes down to it, it's I'm going to go ahead and put the team on my back, even if there's other players that are wide open. And I'm sorry, but I would be more okay with that if somebody had the frame of a Jalen Green who's 6'6". And the other problem that I have is that when Garland and Sexton are on the court together, it seems like it's very choppy. And I don't want to say stagnant, but because Garland, when he takes the ball up the court, it's very smooth, and he's able to distribute well. He's able to score on his own, but he's able to look and always is looking to pass along with getting the score for himself.
Right.
Whereas when it comes to Colin will occasionally make the pass, but again, every time it just seems like if there's a pick and roll, he's going to roll and he's going to head to the basket and he's going to try to take some hard contact and throw the ball up to the hoop. So Colin, I feel like, hasn't necessarily grown as much, and to be quite honest, I'm weary of giving him an extension. And I look at Colin Sexton as somebody who can be a great six-man on a playoff team. So if he were willing to be that, okay, fine, but I'm also not willing to pay that guy $20 million.
Right.
So that's the problem that we're kind of running into at this point. So I look at Colin Sexton as, okay, this is our main tradable asset. Now, I think that Kobe Altman, they've talked about, looking to make that next step, make that jump. And I think that whoever they pick at 3, they're going to use as that centerpiece. And that's also why I said Jalen Green. I think he can be that centerpiece of your team. So at that point, I would trade Colin Sexton. I would trade your 2022 first-round pick. Hell, if I need to, trade your 2024 first-round pick and go ahead and see who you can bring in. You have Taurean Prince on an expiring deal. You have the Chetty Osman money, who, if somebody's willing to take that, please, God, take it. And at the same time, you still have the Kevin Love situation, but at the same time, I think that'll take an asset to move off of as
Yes.
well. But the way that I see it, you take Colin Sexton, you take first-round picks, and you move it for somebody, move it for a potential star that may be disgruntled. So I look at, and this is just one situation. I do not know. I don't have insider info on this, but I would look at Toronto. And there were rumors at the trade deadline last year where Nick Nurse and Pascal Siakam got into an altercation in the locker room. And I would go ahead and call up Toronto, just say, look, I understand that there was everything with Siakam before. Would you be willing to take Colin after Kyle Lowry is heading free agency? we'll give you Colin, we'll give you a couple first-round picks, we'll give you an expiring deal, a role player in Chetty. At that point, you can get out of that long-term deal and long-term commitment with Siakam, and all of a sudden now your starting lineup becomes Darius Garland, Jalen Green, Isaac Okoro, Pascal Siakam, and Jared Allen.
Sounds pretty good.
Exactly my point. But like
put me in a dream world, right?
Right,
Like,
that's what I mean.
Not necessarily a dream world, but at least like a nice basketball dream world, you know?
Yeah, and at that point, that's where you can utilize the free agent money that you have to bring in somebody like a veteran. So again, going into the postseason press conference that Kobe Altman had said, you know, he came out and likened them to where the Suns and the Hawks were, which again, I think was just, you know, romanticizing, hey, we're getting to that point. But at the same time, my issue that I had was they had their centerpiece.
Yeah.
The Cavs don't have their centerpiece. Now, once you get Jalen Green, the Cavs might be benefiting because they were able to build the rest of their team, and now they bring in the centerpiece all of a sudden to make it work, and you have him for another 4, possibly 7 or 8 years at that point to have him under contract. So I look at it as you bring in your centerpiece, and then you can bring in the veterans like what Atlanta did last year, bringing in Danilo Gallinari, bring in Lou Williams, and bring in a few other veterans. And all of a sudden now, this Cavs team makes a lot of sense, which is something that I haven't really been able to say for a while now.
Well, and that also goes to what Kobe Altman has been saying is they want to expedite this process of rebuild and getting to competition level, competing for not just the 8 or the play-in tournament, whatever they're doing now in the NBA.
Right.
I mean, that is becoming the new NBA purgatory. They're trying, what he is saying is they're trying to compete for the top and be a winning organization again.
Yes.
I think part of that is they're still trying to prove that they can do it without LeBron James specifically, not a guy like LeBron James himself.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of Colin Sexton, all I'll say is, yes, I am a fan of Colin Sexton, but I understand if they trade him away. Will I like it? No. But I'm not going to, like I do with Space Jam on this show, I'm not going to pound the table and say that we need to keep Colin Sexton because I understand the business. If they keep Colin Sexton and extend him because of a lot of the fans on Twitter and out there in Cavs universe that are big Colin Sexton fans that are saying you got to keep him, he's got to be here. If you're doing what the fans want, then that's when you go end up sitting with them. That's the common adage. You do what the fans want, you end up sitting with them.
Yeah.
And not in a job that you are meant for or supposed to be in a professional sports organization's front office. So it just looks like the two guys that I'm looking at, Jalen Green and Jalen Suggs, you're looking at Jalen Green. Those guys, you bring one of them in, how does the three of them I can't see how that would work. Darius Garland, keeping Colin Sexton, and having Jalen Green or Jalen Suggs. Suggs is kind of more, hinting at the Darius Garland spot. Green is the Colin Sexton spot. I think it's time you may have to split up Garland and Sexton and get rid of this stupid Sexland thing that's going all over the place.
Look, man, and I would say this. I am going to be disappointed to see Sexland go. I am going to be terribly disappointed to see Sexland go. But at the same...
it needs the...
Hey, come on, man. It's fun. It's fun. I love it, man. I love a little bit of fun.
I know.
It's fine.
It's fun to a point, but then people take it too far, and everybody always takes advantage of those things.
Of course. But I mean, you can only do that in Sexland. But at the same...
This is a family show, all right?
I never said it wasn't. But at the same time though, I will say I do disagree to an extent with the Jalen Suggs Darius Garland breakup, because I do think that Suggs can play a little bit off ball. But I just think that it's a little bit more of a quirky fit between him and Garland. I think Garland is a good distributor, and he can be somebody who can lead up the court. Not to say that Green isn't,
right?
But at the same time, I think it's a little bit more of a natural fit between the two.
Natural 1 and 2, even though it's positionless basketball,
right?
It's a little bit more of a natural connection.
Yes.
On paper, again, on paper only leads you so far, and but. I'm looking at, you got to pick a guy. I don't want to trade for a veteran unless you're adding to what you pick up in the draft. That's where I'm at with that. But another team that on paper looks like they can do a lot, the Cleveland Browns. We're going to get Mac's thoughts on them here on the other side of this break, but be sure to tune in to this break specifically because we keep talking about it. You want that Voice of Land gear, we will tell you exactly where to get that, especially to get your Paulus Fu Manchu t-shirt as well that we added there. I'm going to have to figure out a shirt that, I don't know if I need to change up my look or something, get like my face on a t-shirt, but we'll see. But we'll have all that information on the other side of this break here on the Voice of Land on the Big Play Network.
Are you struggling to hire the right talent or maybe even find the right career? Vector Technical makes it easy. Since 1992, Vector has provided Ohio employers with a reliable process for hiring and have helped thousands of job seekers advance in their careers. Vector Technical is more than just a temp agency. We invest time to get to know each client and candidate personally. Vector places people in job opportunities that they are truly excited about. Interested in learning more? Visit our website at www.vectortechnicalinc.com to see a full list of our current job opportunities and to find out what Vector Technical can offer you.
Get your gear at voiceoftheland.com/shop.
Welcome back to the Voice of Land here on the Big Play Network and partnered with LPV Productions. Kevin Arnold alongside our special guest host, Mac, in his somewhat Mac corner that we try to set up for you, filling in for Paulus, who's on assignment this week. Are you liking your version of Mac, the Mac corner over there?
It feels nice. It feels nice. I'm not gonna lie, you guys were accommodating. I appreciate it. It's nice. I appreciate it.
Those that didn't tune into the Ohio Media School All Sports Cleveland network, of course, Mac, we used to do a show, Mac Corner, which came from our draft coverage of the 2018 draft when one Baker Mayfield was selected for the Cleveland Browns. And Mac was rattling off those stats and information on all these guys. Like he is one guy to go to, especially during draft time and throughout Brown season, football season, NFL. Of course, follow him at MacRobinson95 on Twitter. You'll get all that information on there. But we kind of stuck him in a corner at the restaurant we were in, and then people were trying to sit in his corner the next day, and
was not having it.
Just took off from there. Yeah, you weren't having it at all. Just took off from there. So, and of course, behind that proverbial glass, as we say, Peter Telep is here as well. And we went to break, of course, kind of talking Cavs, but we got the NFL guy and the Browns guy with us here tonight. And just a couple questions for you, because there's really not a lot going on. Tight end universities going on right now with all the tight ends in the league, but there's not a lot of storylines. Everybody still is going to the Baker contract. Will it or won't it happen? What are your thoughts on, will the Browns actually do it, or should they do it this offseason? And in addition to, with Baker, there was an article out today by Terry Pluto, I believe, of Cleveland.com, Cleveland Plain Dealer, of course, those days as well, basically calling, I haven't read the whole thing, but it was basically calling Baker Mayfield a system quarterback, but that's okay for the Cleveland Browns. Should the Browns extend Baker, and are they extending a system quarterback or not?
So, okay, I would start off by answering the will they and should they this offseason. And I say the answer is yes to both. Mainly because I think that for Baker, he hasn't had, obviously we've known this, but Baker hasn't had the same coaching staff until this year, going in back-to-back seasons. So I look at it as Baker's second year. This is really his second year in development. You know, I almost look at his sophomore year as a negative year, so it almost subtracts a year basically. So it brought him back to square one. So I look at it as, yes, you extend Baker. Basically, I look at it similar to the Myles Garrett situation last year. So Myles obviously had his incident with Mason Rudolph, had his suspension, and they ended up extending him, giving him the largest guarantee and the largest contract for a defensive player in the history of the league. And that lasted about 4 days until Joey Bosa got his extension. So basically, I look at this as, if you go ahead, get ahead of this, all of a sudden your record deal becomes, cheap by the time that you get 2 or 3 contracts down the line, especially when we're talking quarterback. So I look at Baker's contract. I think that they're going to extend him. I think it's going to happen here relatively soon. And I do think that it will happen. I do think that they should extend him. Now, as for the Terry Pluto article, I didn't get a chance to read it. I did see it. I just haven't got a chance to read it today.
Yeah.
But the whole system quarterback moniker for Baker, I can understand it, but I will say this. I don't think that that's really a knock on him.
Right.
There are certain ones where, a game manager or certain things that might be a knock on certain quarterbacks, mainly because, they might not necessarily be aggressive. But a system quarterback, all that tells me is that you have good coaching because your coaches are adjusting their system to the quarterback and his strengths, which
Right.
is what you're trying to do.
Right.
I mean, unless we're trying to put our quarterbacks in the worst situation possible.
Like we did since 1999.
Yes, exactly.
Before Baker.
Well, yeah.
And Kevin Stefanski.
Right.
Coach Kev.
Right. Yeah. So I look at it as, it's not really a
Right.
disappointment, for Baker. And I think is a system quarterback fair, but I also think a system for your quarterback should be what we aim for at this point. And it shows that Stefanski and the rest of the offensive coaches, Alex Van Pelt, all of those guys have really been building that offense to make sense for the personnel that they have. They have Nick Chubb, they have Kareem Hunt, and they have, obviously, Odell and Jarvis. I look at the offense and think it makes sense for what they're trying to do. Now, the other part of this, too, is that people have brought up, the run game, everything like that. I look at it as by the end of last year, you saw that they leaned on the run game heavy in the first part of the season,
Right.
mainly because Baker was getting adjusted to it. It takes a while. It took Kirk Cousins a year and a half to get used to it. It took Baker 8 games and no offseason. So all of a sudden, by the second half of the year, they were expanding the passes more. They were expanding the offense more, letting Baker do a little more, give him a little bit of a longer leash. And you saw Baker be able to take advantage of that. And so I think that you're going to see that next step from Baker this year because, again, it's another year. You give him a full offseason with him being able to be around the coaches as well and around his teammates as well. I think that this is going to be another step for Baker Mayfield. And so I do just think that you go ahead, get that price tag low now while you can before Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who have proven, at least in the NFL, that they can be successful. They can be successful with their coaching staffs. And Baker now, if you get him in year 2 and he's able to take that next step, all of a sudden now you're going to have to pay him alongside those numbers instead of maybe getting him for a slight bargain if you put your trust in him and go ahead and pay him first.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought up and you talked about how a system quarterback is not a bad thing. And we talked last week, Paulus and I talked about how Baker and the Browns, the extension needs to get done. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the guy. Everybody that in the national media that wants to keep, throwing stones and just trying to get clicks and likes and
Yeah.
get the trolls out there and troll everybody else. And they know Cleveland's going to respond to it. They're trying to get everybody to retweet their stuff, and they know Cleveland fans will.
Right.
Baker Mayfield's polarizing. It just comes with the territory. But just keeping everything in house, he's their guy. Extend him, and like you said, I mean, doing it this year, he can set the market, and then if you got what you think you got in that guy, and he continues to show it, now, as you said, bargain on the market. In terms of system quarterback, Baker, of course, gets lumped in with what he did at Oklahoma, quick out of the shotgun, having those tight ends. Well, the Browns have the tight ends. They have running backs that can, help him out of the backfield. They have playmakers on the outside. Baker can make all the throws, but if, things break down, they have the plays in place, as you saw, and I go back to that Jarvis Landry play in the playoff game where a short little pass, you let your playmaker make the play. So a coaching staff, like how crazy is this in the city of Cleveland? A coaching staff taking the talent they have and building an offense and a system around them. Yeah, if you want to call Baker Mayfield a system quarterback, then that's fine. And I think Terry Pluto was saying that exact same thing that you just said. System quarterback, and that's A-okay. It doesn't have to come with any sort of negative moniker anymore. If a system quarterback is doing what you need them to do and is helping lead you into possibly beating who won the AFC, you were that close to beating them. a guy can do something like that in year one under that system when his confidence was just being reboosted and he was finding himself and then finding how he can utilize elements of the offense to best fit his skill set. Coming off of that into this year, now all of the offense is back together. The coaching staff is back together. The weapons are still all around him. Now they can just take that next step instead of having to reset the language, the players meeting each other for the first time. All of that can be pushed to the side, and you can take that next step this season. Again, system quarterback, fine. I mean, he wins games for us. That's all we want here in the city of Cleveland. Real quick before our break, Mac, the other question I wanted to get your quick thoughts on, what do you see this defense being this year? Do you see them more so of last year being a sieve, or do you really see this 4-2-5 potential having that ability to take on the way that NFL offenses have progressed over the years and being able to stem the tide and be that dominant force out there?
I think it all depends on how long it takes this defense to gel, because that's going to be what I'm going to be focused on throughout training camp, throughout the preseason, in the early stages of the football season. I look at the way that this defense is set up, and like you said, on paper it's great, but again, we have to see how that develops, because I genuinely look at this and think that regarding the way that this defense is set up, and I can't remember, Steve Wilks, 2 years ago, defensive coordinator, completely flushed the 2019 season out of my head, thankfully.
We flushed a lot of seasons out of our heads.
Yes, we did. But in the 2019 season, he talked about wanting to run that 4-2-5 defense. And I just didn't think at the time that they had the personnel to do it. You had Jermaine Whitehead, who was trying to play in that safety role as well. But now you can decide, okay, do you want to run a 4-2-5? Do you want to run that with 3 corners or 3 safeties? Do you want to go ahead and run 2 linebackers, or do you want to run dime defense with only 1 linebacker out there, and you can run 3 safeties and 3 corners? You genuinely have the versatility on this defense up and down. On the defensive line, you have Clowney who can play on the edge or who can kick inside. You have Malik Jackson who can do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And there's versatility all along this defense. I don't see it being a sieve. Maybe early on they play a little vanilla, but I think that once this defense gels, I think you're looking at a team that could be top 10 in defense this year, genuinely, with this talent.
And that's where Paulus and I were at last week. Like, it may take a few weeks for this defense to show what they can be, because it's going to take a little bit more time for them, being first year all together and so many new pieces. And that's the biggest question mark. How can they kind of, win games? The offense is going to be having some blowouts in these initial games. But I think after the first couple, once they kind of get the communication and get an understanding of each other and where they're going to be, again, this defense can translate what looks like on paper to be dominant, to be between those 4 white lines, to be physically and mentally dominant against their opponents this season. We are going to hit our final break of the evening here. On the other side, quick thoughts maybe on the Indians. Do want to send our best again out to Josh Naylor. We'll get into that quickly on the other side. And top 3 summer activities you may have missed last year, or just overall, especially heading into a long holiday weekend next weekend, taking advantage of that nice weather. What are those summer activities you look forward to every single June, July, August, and even September? We'll get into that on the other side. This is the Voice of Land on the Big Play Network.
Are you looking for a career in manufacturing? Vector Technical has you covered. Vector Technical is a 28-year-old staffing firm that has partnered with some of the biggest and the best companies throughout northeastern Ohio. The recruiters at Vector Technical will coach you through the entire job process and will help you land an opportunity that you are truly excited about. Vector does not add any additional fees and offers benefits as well as free online skills training through Penn Foster. To learn more, visit www.vectortechnicalinc.com and make sure to check out our job board to see a full list of our current opportunities and apply.
And welcome back to the Voice of Land for our final segment of the evening. Of course, it's usually our fun segment of the evening. We're having fun with words throughout the show. We'll have a little bit more fun to end the show. But, of course, have to start with a little bit less fun topic right now. And again, from our Voice of the Land family out to the Indians organization and, of course, Josh Naylor as well, wishing him a speedy recovery. Of course, collision out there in the outfield trying to make a play with second baseman Ernie Clement. Terry Francona did mention to the media after the game that he did break a bone. They did not specify which one, but according to our doctor affiliation on the show, Dr. Jana, our physical therapist, that any sort of broken bone, that's 6 to 8 weeks at least that you're looking at there. But we'll get the official word from the Indians, I'm sure, in maybe this evening or later on this week before they play their games this week, heading into the holiday weekend. Mac, I mean, it just seems like it's been a roller coaster. We kind of had the running bit here on the show that, like, who are the Indians? Like the common, the Who song, like, who are you? Who? Still trying to figure out who they are, but they've been able to stay above 500, around that 9-10 games above 500. A rough weekend against Twins team that has not met any sort of expectations, bottom of the AL Central. And again, they were able to win a couple games because the pitching staff, you don't even have any of your starters from opening day. You're hoping to get Plesac back and, of course, in your lineup, Franmil Reyes. But another bat in your lineup goes down today. I mean, it's one of the toughest seasons I've seen in a while in baseball. I don't know where you're at.
Well, I think that we finally found a name to call the Indians now, or the Cleveland baseball team now, and that's the Cleveland Clippers, because that's pretty much been the entire roster that you've seen at this point. I mean, Ernie Clement, we covered back when we used to cover the captains' games, and I look at that injury genuinely. Like I had to catch the replay because I didn't watch it live, but I mean that might be the worst injury that I've ever seen. At least the worst collision, sports injury period that I've ever seen. And so, I genuinely, like you said, speedy recovery to Naylor. But I think that at this point, you call up Daniel Johnson. I think that, I believe on Friday he hit his 9th home run of the season. Yeah. So I think he's going to be somebody who's a candidate to get called up. There's been a possibility that you can call up Nolan Jones, but I don't think that they're going to do that because of an injury.
Shout out to Double A, by the way. Nolan Jones.
Yeah. So I like Nolan, but I just don't think he's an outfielder either.
No.
But at the same time, I think that they're going to utilize Daniel Johnson, get him called up. But I also think that, once Luplow gets ready to go, I think that all of a sudden, I think he will be somebody who can get or at least get moved to the 10-day deal. I know he got shifted before.
Yeah, he got shifted to 60, but I mean, I don't know. I didn't even realize that he was, on the, it's just, you're going through so many injuries, you forget about the ones that started the season.
Yeah, and this goes back to my bigger problem with the Indians going into this year, and that was the fact that I feel like Chris Antonetti somewhat mismanaged this roster. And look, he's done a great job with what he's done overall, but at the same time, I look back at the two major trades that they've made, the last two, I should say, between the Mike Clevenger deal last year and then you have the deal this year with Francisco Lindor. And the two biggest issues that I have with it is that, you're at least when it comes to the organization, you really don't develop your own outfielders. The Indians haven't really developed an outfielder that I can remember. Your best ones were coming from trades and prospects that came from other organizations. And hell, even Josh Naylor was somebody who was a first baseman who was moved to the outfield last year by the Padres, and then the Indians kept them there. So, I look at the Indians and thinking, okay, for a fact that you really can't develop outfielders. It's one of your weak spots. At least recognizing that everybody has one. The Indian strength is pitching.
That's a common theme on this show that we talk about all the time. Can develop pitching, but you can't develop outfield.
Right. And so the problem that I had with it was that you got Gabriel Arias in the deal, another player that we used to cover, but at the same time, he was somebody, talented infielder, great. You got him, Owen Miller, a talented infielder, great, phenomenal. And then your next deal, you acquire Ahmed Rosario, which, again, he's playing phenomenally. I don't hate trading for him. But the problem is that the centerpiece was Andres Jimenez. And so at that point, you have another middle infielder. I'm okay with getting those top guys if they're in single A and you have time to develop them into outfielders or develop them into other positions. But if they're major league ready, you're not going to switch them. You're not going to have them switch positions that got them to that point.
Right.
So I just didn't understand the roster construction behind that. I can understand getting the pitching and everything like that. But when you're getting all these middle infielders, and on top of that, you still have Tyler Freeman who's coming up. He's obviously been dealing with a sore shoulder these last couple weeks. But, at the same time, these players, it's all of a sudden now you're seeing the issues. You have Owen Miller who came up for a little bit. He couldn't hit, but also he was kept in the infield. Again, you have Eddie Rosario who you're focused on. You're now trotting out Bradley Zimmer, the 7th-year senior at this point. I look at the way that this roster has been constructed, and I just think that it's flawed. And look, like I said, Antonetti's doing the best that he can, but when that's one of your star pitchers and your centerpiece shortstop, you got to do better than getting just a bunch of infielders that are major league ready.
Yeah, I mean, Peter, it's turned into from us kind of joking around like, who is this team really going to be? Will they actually contend or not? To, I mean, really, like, who are these guys? Because we're trying to learn about them. Mac and I covered the captains, so we've kind of seen some of them. But now we're just trying to put guys in random spots just to get their bat up here, and it's the injuries just so tough to watch from afar. It's been fun to watch baseball, but tough to just kind of see those new notifications come through every single day.
I don't think I can remember a year that the Indians have had this many injuries. I mean,
I can rarely think of a team that's had this many injuries.
I mean, the pitching, our pitching staff is decimated, and yet before the show I went through and I looked up the June, and I think they're 12-9 in June. So with all the issues that they've had, the bats are either hot or cold, injuries, the pitching, they bring up some prospects for pitching. Maybe the prospects do okay, but they're limited on pitch count.
Yeah.
So then we're into the bullpen already.
Yeah.
So we're really putting a lot of wear and tear on the bullpen. And yet somehow, they're only 2 games back.
I know.
So,
right.
And I was looking, and the bottom 3 teams, in the AL, they're all like 11 games back.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a pretty good cushion there.
Yeah.
And we're only 2 games back. It's ludicrous, actually, how, the team, this is almost like, are they going to get to the playoffs potentially? Might we actually have some healthy people and, we do well because we've had nothing but adversity all year? I don't know.
Yeah. It really tests the mettle of your mental state and the mettle of a team, how they're going to get through these kind of things. Again, we keep saying it that having Terry Francona at the helm is the guy you want. And it's amazing that they've been able to stay above 500 and how they've done it to this point of the season, almost 3 months into it. And, I mean, you could have made up ground against the White Sox, who are struggling right now, so that's the downside. Mm-hmm. But yet you're still there to give yourself a chance if they can find a way to piece things together. And as guys slowly start to come back, I mean, you could really take a run.
Well, the other part of this, too, that makes it so difficult because we're a couple weeks or like a month away from the deadline. What do you do? How do you evaluate your own team? And the one thing that I'm going to hate is that, if I'm the Indians, it wouldn't stop me from, at least calling up like Arizona, who has lost 50 out of the last 55 total or something like that. So it wouldn't stop me from calling them up and asking for the availability of Ketel Marte, the outfielder. Maybe see if he's available and seeing who you can bring in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do worry to an extent that Antonetti and the Dolans basically are going to end up saying well, hey, we're getting Franmil Reyes back. We're getting Jordan Luplow back. Those are our trade deadline acquisitions, and we didn't give anything up for them. Great. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I hear the excuse built in, but at the same time, if I'm the Indians, it wouldn't stop me from at least going after these guys. But at the same time, I understand it with so much of that lineup decimated.
Yeah, if they see the writing on the wall that their contention time is kind of up and their window's closing, then you're going to see something like that. If they're really looking to contend, they're going to at least call to other teams. And again, not looking for a Hall of Famer or an All-Star, a viable, above-average Major League Baseball player that is not on the track of going between AAA and Major Leagues, like just a viable, above-average Major League player that you can put out there that is going to be consistent for you moving forward.
Can I just say, I wish he wasn't a rookie, but Cedric Mullins for the Orioles, he has played so dang well. And he's batted above 300. You know, he's got a ton of steals. He's got home runs this year. Plays phenomenal center field defense. I wish that we had that. At least a combination of the two, you know,
Right.
at least being able to produce on offense from a center fielder. But clearly we don't have that this year. I mean, look, man.
I know
Bradley Zimmer looks like he's
it's
window
tough.
shopping, man, at the plate. Like when it comes to 0-2, he literally doesn't swing.
It's tough. It's tough right now. It's so up and down, and the injuries are, you know, it's kind of heartbreaking right now more
Yeah.
so. Instead of being like frustrated with the team not performing to a level, it's just becoming like heartbreaking for the team and these guys that are trying to give everything they have to continue the culture that this team has put in place over the last few years to do that, and they're putting their bodies on the line to the ultimate degree right now.
Well, and it magnifies the issues that we've even had before, where, you know, coming into the year, it was, you know, you had Billy Hamilton, who was somebody who possibly could have played in the outfield. And look, do I think he could have been the savior out in center field? Absolutely not. But I think that he's a viable veteran.
Right.
And knowing Francona, I would have rather had him than Ben Gamel. But the problem is that, you know, all of a sudden it became, all right, who's it going to be between Bradley Zimmer and Oscar Mercado? And in the span of a week, it became neither of them.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest issue that I took. And all of a sudden then you send Ben Gamel down, you send these other players down, and now all of a sudden it becomes, now you've lost Josh Naylor, you lost Jordan Luplow already, and Bradley Zimmer is playing decent. Like, not great,
right?
But, I mean, viable playing defense. But again, when your catcher isn't giving you anything either, look, and I'm not saying that you have to have a catcher batting 300. Like I know some fans think. Coming into the year, I remember we got a caller because he was complaining about Austin Hedges as the backup because he didn't have as great of a bat. Like, you're not getting that out of a catcher. You're not going to get that at all.
Indians have always been defensive catcher over offensive.
Exactly. And so that's why I look at it as, you know, this is a team that these injuries are bad. But what it did is magnify the roster construction of this team and the issues that you had going into it to begin with. You were relying on Mercado. You were relying on Bradley Zimmer somehow figuring out what he hasn't over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And getting healthy. And all of a sudden now, you know, you're bringing up Bobby Bradley, who I would argue should be up here. But now all of a sudden you're relying on him to be your offensive production. And I just look at this as this has magnified the issues with the Indians even more so. And I think that you just need to bring in outside talent, and I just don't know if they're going to do that.
I don't know. Only time's going to tell. But to be where they're at as we're approaching the All-Star break is a miracle in itself right now.
Fair point.
That's kind of what you have to hang your hat on for right now with this team. But one thing that always gets you going with baseball games is when you get to go to one. And that's always one of those favorite kind of summertime activities to go to is getting out to the baseball games, whether the major leagues, minor leagues, something like that, getting that hot dog and whatever, you know, the nachos or whatever you want to get there and just hanging out with people, kind of talking and watching some baseball in front of you is always one of those activities. I was kind of, you know, I was back home, back in Piedmont, Ohio, back with the fiance this weekend, and we went to their county fair. So, you know, kind of getting out for things like that couldn't happen last year. Fairs, festivals, you know, getting the food, the rides, and, you know, kind of seeing the animals this weekend as well. We were kayaking today. So it got me thinking. You know, I know we're running out of time here, and we kind of went over a little bit, but that's okay because we always do.
Yeah.
We'll make this quick.
I'm on the show. You can blame that on me.
Yeah, you know I will.
Don't worry. I see the underside of this bus. It's okay. I get it. I'm fine with that.
It's all right. It always happens.
You're good.
It's the nature of the show. So, but just real quick, those top 3 summer activities that either you missed last year, you've been able to do, you're looking forward to the rest of the summer?
I'll start off by saying you mentioned with the baseball games. I've been to a couple Indians games already. I'm planning on going to another one here in the next few weeks. And I the crowd there overall, it's phenomenal. I posted the video from the Indians game there too. The crowds were phenomenal. Everybody's into it, and it's just a nice environment to be back in. So I love the baseball games. I'll also say that for me, going to the beaches, whether it be Edgewater or going up to Menor, at least trying to catch, going to making a beach day basically, and being able to take in the water, everything like that. And then I guess I'll go with 2. Sorry. I know you said 3. I'll go one more. But but I'll say this: I love fireworks. Especially, it reminds me of, growing up, I always would look forward to the 4th of July celebrations and everything like that, which we're going to have coming up here soon. I always will look forward to those. And then the other one that I will say that's very underrated is the Cleveland Metro Parks. And being able to take in, a nice, for me, a perfect day is walking through the Metro Parks, through the trails in the Metro Parks, 70 degrees, light breeze, it's perfect, man. Literally, I can't think of a better day.
Connect with nature and just reflect and reset. That's a great point. I love to go to the Metro Parks and just do that every now and again. Peter, your top 3 summer activities.
So normally one of them is watching the Indians games. We don't get to go out to the games as much.
Right.
We'll go to captain's games, so I missed that last year because there was no season. But really, now with YouTube TV, and I can't watch the Indians games. So,
Same here.
I listen to them sometimes on the iHeart app on my phone.
Yep.
Which, hey, I'm really thankful that we can do that because for so long, they would black them out, so you couldn't do that. So I do miss that a little bit. But the beach, we don't go to Headlands that much, but we have a beach at the end of our street, and and it was actually last year was great because at the beginning of the pandemic we would go down there for the sunsets, beautiful sunsets. Right now, because of erosion, I don't even know if you can find a place to park. There's only maybe a dozen parking spaces. It's just a small beach at the end of the street. But they have huge earth moving equipment there, so that kind of hopefully they'll get that fixed and we can go hang out there because it is kind of nice to spend time there. But the fairs, St. John Vianney has the festival every year, and so last year of course they didn't have it, and it's a typical church festival. You go, they got some games, they don't have any rides, but they've got things that the kids can do. They got live music, and it's nice to be able to go and just it supports the church. It's it's the community, and overpay for some hamburgers and whatnot. But it's but it's fun, and it's really part of summer. And last year was just so weird because all of those things that you don't really think about, it's and now this year it's well, we can do that, but it's do you, we're all vaccinated, but it's do I want to be around big crowds again? Am I really, am I ready? I kind of like not being around a lot of people.
Right.
But,
kind of got used to the social distancing and everything. You know,
it's nice. It will be nice to get back to to quote unquote normal.
Speaking to that actually too, that actually reminded me. I almost completely forgot about the different cities' home days.
Oh yeah,
the home day celebrations. I remember growing up. That was always the mark of midway through summer is going to the different home days. For me, I would go to the Independence ones or the Broadview Heights area ones. So for me, I always looked forward to those celebrations and everything like that, and seeing all the friends, everything like that. It's like you said, it's those little things that you don't necessarily think about until you miss them.
Right.
And once they're gone, it's just man, I do miss that, man. I do miss having that around.
Yeah, it's last year really put a lot of stuff in perspective. And again, if the question is right now for everybody, do I want to go out in those big crowds even if I'm vaccinated? That's totally fine. And that's showing the next step. People are getting out, and if you're asking that question and thinking about it, the opportunity to go out is there. So that's the good part.
Yes.
The opportunity to go out and reconnect with people face to face, which is instead of through Zoom or just over the phone. Like those are nice, but there's nothing better than just the face to face interaction that you get with people. My top 3, real quick. You mentioned it. Fireworks is right at the top. I mean, I always gotta find like the best spot for them.
Yes.
You know, at the Harrison County Fair, there was a park just past where they were at, where they were doing their truck and tractor pulls. And Sally Buffalo Park that was doing like this music night and whatever, and they had fireworks at the end. And man, they had a long show and good show, but they had a long show. Like we were able to kind of watch both at the same time, and it was like the perfect spot for that. You know, other things that love to do in the summer. I mean, did it today, kayaking, especially on Piedmont Lake down there. It's so peaceful.
Never been.
It's so peaceful and relaxing. You talked about the metro parks reconnecting and just getting out there to reset. I mean, it's the perfect spot to do that. You know, it's a small town, and it's just, you know, there's not a lot going on, and that's perfect a lot of the times for me, honestly, to not have a lot going on and just reconnect with family and stuff and just get on the lake and go kayaking, kind of float around for a little bit and just enjoy being outside and not being around a lot of people. That's one way to do it.
Yep.
And then last thing is, you know, at the end of the summer, it's the air show. I mean, it's one of my favorite things to go to. The bad part about it, of course, is that when you leave, you know, it's kind of the technical end of summer. But it's one heck of a way to go out.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm missed that last year. I hate that the Blue Angels didn't push their schedule back because they go back and forth between them and the Thunderbirds. They're just staying on schedule. I believe the air show is happening. Everything I've seen, it is happening. So the Thunderbirds will be in town. But looking forward to getting out to Burke Lakefront Airport and catching the air show this year. So those are I just love the sound of the jets coming by. And man, I used to try to go watch practices and stuff to figure out sometimes where the sneak attack was coming in from those tactical teams and everything. Now I just let it happen because I'm just like, let's get low, let's get fast, guys, let's go, let's get loud.
A long time ago, there was they got in trouble for buzzing the buildings downtown.
Yeah,
I was working in one of those buildings downtown that they were buzzing, and it shook the building.
it did.
It was like,
yeah, it's a little scary in that kind of sense, but. It's still a great time and great family affair. Well, that is going to wrap it up, though, for this edition. Mac Robinson, thank you so much for coming in, filling in for Paulus this week, and always appreciate you coming on the show, man.
As always, thank you guys for having me. I love coming out. I love hopping on the show. You guys do a great job.
And, of course, follow him on Twitter at MacRobinson95. Catch him on 92.3 The Fan here in Cleveland and on the Hurry Up podcast, talking Browns, talking NFL. He's got all the big-time guests coming on there as well. We can only hope to get to that level here on the Voice of Land, where Mac has reached, of course. And a special thank you to our producer, Peter Tulloch, always putting in the work behind that proverbial glass back there and making us sound and look as good as possible. For Mac Robinson and Peter Tulloch, I am Kevin Arnold, reminding all of you, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. And we love you all. 3,000. We will see you in 2 weeks. Catch the Best Of show next week, but we'll see you in 2 weeks here on the Voice of Land on the Big Play Network.